when the name Corpse Paint came about.
For me, it's just like an electric jolt.
The real ugly side of humanity, and their music sounds like it.
I always wanted to be a band that was approachable to people, that was just regular-ass people.
Yo, what's up? So before I start this episode, I want to bring up two really good friends of mine that I've met along the way. They've been the backbone and really the biggest supporters of this podcast since day one. Everything visually you see with this podcast has been done by Wither Designs and Benny Bones Art, and it could be your band next. Check them out on social media, get yourself something unique and original, and yeah, let's do this.
What's up, Bear? And I just want to let you know that your documentary is awesome. Exile by Choice. Dude, I was like sitting, like laying in bed, and I was like, I want to find like a unique documentary. And oh man, like every part to it was awesome. Like just the rawness and the amount of fun that you guys were having. Like I'm a documentary film guy myself, and yeah, I was just blown away.
Yeah,
like,
Born Ready Films, they really nailed it on that one. And that was their first like effort as a documentary crew. And since then, they've gone on and done some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I got to ask, so, like, when did you first start traveling?
In 2008, when I was 18 years old, it's the first time I hit the road. And, before that, reverse a little bit. First time I traveled, like, on my own as an adult teenage man, I was, I think, 17 or 18 with my first band, Jerome in the Sky. We went on tour, and that was like an awesome tour, booked entirely off of MySpace, which was the best tour booking platform that I've ever encountered. Because, back in the day on MySpace, you could like search area codes, and it would pop up every venue in the area code. So you didn't have to be as much of a stalker as you have to be now to like stalk down all the owners of DIY venues and stuff, because all their information was just there for the taking on MySpace. So we booked a West Coast tour. We hit the road for like 3 months and only played 10 shows in those 3 months. So we spent a lot of time just like camping, sleeping in the Subaru. It felt like traveling, And ultimately the tour was a flop. But when I got home, I was like, guys, I'll start booking the next one right away. And my bandmates were like, dude, you're fucking crazy. That just cost us a bunch of money. It was useless. We didn't make any fans. So I rebutted with, well, if you're not going to tour, then I'm just going to hit the road. And I bought a backpack, and I had $50 to my name because I spent all my money on that stupid tour. And I just took a bus, as far away from Waukegan, Illinois as I could get, which at the time was Athens, Georgia. That was the farthest destination I could afford on a Greyhound with $50.
Wow, so you basically spent all that $50 on the train ticket. So
yeah.
How did you?
I
know in the film, like, you were like dumpster diving for like food and stuff like that. I wouldn't even call it like dumpster diving because it was just food that people just like didn't want to eat. You know what I mean? It was like bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, on that first trip, I learned how to dumpster dive. Like, I remember the first time I ever dumpster dove, and I had met. So when I got to Athens, there's like this website back in the day called Squat the Planet, which was like just a forum where you could meet other travelers. And I had found someone in Athens who was looking to travel. Her name was Judith, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll pick you up at the Greyhound station, and we'll leave in like 2 days, and we'll hit the road, hitchhiking and hopping trains together." And Judith had also talked to this other girl, Bonnie. I didn't know that, but I got there, and Bonnie was like experienced. She was a road dog. She was older than us. She was on the road with her cat, but she had just come from New York City, hopped trains and hitchhiked down to Georgia, and met us. And Bonnie had the plan. And like that very first day with Bonnie, she took us to a Trader Joe's. She's like, well, let's get some food. And she went around back and hopped in the trash. She was like wearing a dress. She was dressed really nice. And I was like, you're going to get covered in that nasty dumpster grime? Like, ew. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, get the fuck out of there before someone catches us.
Yeah, you were like embarrassed.
But then she pulled a bunch of like awesome organic food out of there. And we ate it for dinner that night. And like it just my mind was blown, and my perspective has been changed ever since then. I've resorted to the dumpster, like as a primary, like go check the dumpster first, then go into the grocery store to supplement what you can't find in the dumpster is like the new MO.
Yeah, well, I just the whole film, like, I just enjoyed the fact that like you just looked like you were having the blast, like a total blast. Like I'm in a spot in my life where I'm 23 years old. I haven't really experienced the world. So like watching that film, I was like mind blown. I'm like, holy fuck, man, this dude literally had no money and just traveled, like just hopping trains. Like,
yeah, it's doable. It's doable. And that was honestly like the glory days of my life. Because, you know, that was like 10, 12 years ago now. No, 2008, that was even longer. But now, you know, life is different. I have kids. I just like finished college, and I have these expectations, and living like that is no longer an option for me. Because, I mean, I would love to take my kids on the road, but there's too many do-gooders out there who would like see you living out of a car with your kids and call Child Protective Services. But yeah, I mean, if it looked like I was having a good time, it's because I was living my dream.
So if you were to give any advice to any 20-year-old, what would it be when it comes down to like traveling and like music and traveling kind of go hand in hand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people always look at it where they're like, oh, you know, I'm too old for this. I can't do it anymore, etc.
Yeah, now music is the vessel that gets me on the road. Like, that's the only reason that I would get to travel now is if I book shows and, you know, have tour destinations. But the difference between that and, like, the Exile by Choice period was I didn't have tour dates. I didn't have any destinations, and I didn't have any, like, when I hit the road, I've hit the road, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 times between 2008 and currently. And every time I do it, I like clear my schedule perpetually. I make sure that I don't have to be back for anything. I don't have to be anywhere for anything. So I'm able to just like go at the whim of the road and follow leads wherever the road takes me, you know? And that is a beautiful situation to be in.
Had no obligations other than just enjoy life.
Yeah, and to just be able to, like, standing by the road with your thumb out, you never know who you're going to meet or where they're going. And I can't tell you how many cool people I've met that have just hit me with a plan. And I'm like, yeah, that's way better than the plan I had. I'm going with your plan now. You have an awesome plan. Let's see this through. Like,
yeah. And I got to ask, like, do you feel like that's a little bit more dangerous nowadays?
I feel like it's so much safer now, because now...
You think it is safer now?
When I hit the road, I didn't have a smartphone. You know, it was 2008. I had a Nokia brick that could text and call, and it was pretty much my mom walkie-talkie. Like, I only had a couple numbers in it, and I just used it to be like, hey, Mom, I'm safe. Like, you don't have to worry, you know? But, like, I didn't have Google Maps. That's huge. Like hopping trains now, I've hopped trains since then with a smartphone, and being able to open your smartphone and see where you are, it is a game changer. Because, like, my first train, you know, I hopped on in Tampa Bay, Florida. It was the juice train, Tropicana juice train, and it didn't take me that far, but then I caught another train, and when I got off, it was like being in the Twilight Zone. I had to, like, go find someone and be like, hey, where am I? And they're like, you're in Baldwin. And I'm like, well, what state is Baldwin? You know, I don't even know. I've just been on this piece of steel ricketing around for like 10 hours.
Now, is there any like, I'm trying to think like, okay, back in the day doing it, yeah, obviously it seems like a more of a difficult thing without Google Maps, but do you think like people get caught easier? Like now, like in present day?
No. I think it's so much easier to do it now. The technology you have. So like fast forward again from when I first started traveling, I met another kid who I hopped trains with. His name is TJ, and he had this like walkie-talkie and a list printed out of every railroad station frequency, and we could literally just listen in to the what do you call it, the conductors, and they tell you exactly what track is going where, when it's departing. They even mention over the radio if you've been spotted. They'll be like, yeah, we saw someone over by track 13. Send the bull to go check it out, you know. And you know
what actually happens in that situation if you ever get caught? Could you get arrested or?
Yeah, so I've been caught maybe 3 times. The first time, my saving grace was like my guardian angel, my puppy Casey Sue. She was only like 10 weeks old when I got busted. I hopped a train out of New Orleans, headed to California.
Did you say 10 years old?
She was 10 months old, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said you were 10 years old. I was like, whoa,
no,
what?
my pup was, 10 weeks old. She was a tiny puppy, you know, just off the mom's tit. And I got busted by the Union Pacific Rail Police, and I just pleaded with the guy. I was like, dude, I don't have papers for this dog. Like, you know what happens to puppies that don't have papers? I don't have proof of her shots. They're going to put her down in the pound while I'm just sitting in jail waiting to be bailed out. I was like, please, don't kill my puppy. And I'm like holding this beautiful, innocent life in front of him. And I could tell he's like going through a moral dilemma. And he's just like, fine, go to the highway. And I don't want to see you back on the railroad property. Got it? And he gave me and my road dog a ride to the highway, and we hitchhiked the rest of the way. The rest of the way out.
Fun. He gave you a ride.
Yeah. Put us in the back of the car, checked us. He grabbed my pocket knife, you know, and he gave it back to me when we got to the highway. But
yeah, wow. So, would you get arrested? Like, what is?
You can definitely get arrested. Another time, I hopped a train again in New Orleans a few years later, and this one, it was raining, it was crappy, and me and my buddy, this was with TJ, that kid with the radio frequency scanner, we just saw a train moving, and it was the one that like rolls right down by the river, the boardwalk in New Orleans, and we just hopped on it in front of all these tourists and stuff. We didn't care. It was moving slow enough, and we just hopped on it, and it only went like, I don't know, 15 minutes down the tracks, and then it stopped. But it was so rainy, and we had hopped on a Cadillac Grainer, which is like this awesome car that has a little nook for 2 people, so we each had our own little cabin in there.
I think I remember seeing that in the film.
Yeah, me and Mikey rode one in Exile. So we were in a Cadillac Grainer, and it was raining outside, and we're like, even though the train stopped, let's just sleep on the train tonight. Like, we don't have anywhere to sleep outside, so we just slept on it. And they were like humping it in the yard. We could feel it like jerking back and forth. And we've stayed on it figuring maybe the train would hop on another track and keep going. But the next morning, it was like we were in a stalemate. We'd been sitting on this train for like a couple hours. And eventually TJ got off to go piss, and a security guard found him. And it turns out we were in the intermodal shipping yard, which is like, it's protected by like, I think, federal borders. There's like a federal officer that came up and found us. And luckily, we saw him coming, and we got all of our shit off the train by then. And he was like, did you ride that train in here? And I was like, no, man. No. We got drunk, and we just walked the train tracks looking for a place to sleep, and we slept over by that wall. And he's like, and security didn't stop you? It's like, no, we never saw one. We just walked right in. Yeah. And,
wow.
And he wanted to arrest us, you could tell. But if he did, it would be a paperwork issue for the security guard that supposedly let us walk into this, you know, federally protected intermodal shipping yard. So he drove us to the border and said, don't come back.
That is crazy.
But, you know, a lot of people do get busted, and sometimes it's not just like, there's a rich history in the railroad police, which you call the bull, in the bull being like fucking brutal to train hoppers. And sometimes they won't even arrest you. They'll just beat the shit out of you and kick you out of the yard. Like, I've heard countless stories. I even have a friend who's a girl I'm pretty sure her leg broken by a railroad policeman, just like fucking relentlessly beating her. But,
holy shit.
But like, what are you going to do then? What are you going to call the cops and say, hey, I was trespassing and a cop beat me up, so charge me for the trespassing and maybe I can charge him for some shit?
Yeah, that's tough. Well, because I was watching, I'm like, man, like this is gonna open a lot of minds to young kids like me, where they're like, that sounds like fun,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, my fiance,
But
she's always asking me like, "Hey, can we go on a freight train hopping trip?" And part of me is like, "Yeah," but then I explain like, "We better have enough money set aside for bail, because if we get caught like and someone's babysitting our kids, we can't just like sit and rot in a cell for a month waiting for our hearing, you know?"
yeah, no, totally.
And that happens to a lot of people when they get busted. You just have to sit and wait for your court case, your court hearing. Wait to be seen by a judge if you don't have someone to bail you out.
So, what made you like want to pursue like a film though? Like, did you have this vision of being like, you know what, there's something unique about me that I want people to see? Like, what gravitated you towards that opportunity?
So when I first started traveling, I had a little 8 megapixel Kodak point and shoot camera that had video capacities on it, and I would just take videos of me on the trains and stuff, and like just for my own like personal collection. I took a lot of pictures of the subculture back then and videos, and I had a buddy his name is Drew Morris. He's the founder of Born Ready Films, and I went to school with him and Grant Stakanis and Jimmy Murray. 3 of them, they went on to start Born Ready Films. But when I graduated high school, I joined a band, started touring, did the traveling thing. They all went to art school, and they started a production company. So
Oh wow.
It was 4 years after we graduated high school, and I knew all these guys. They all graduated college at Columbia College in Chicago, and they had a full-blown production company, Born Ready Films, that they had created, and they were ready to do their first, their first effort as a professional production company outside of college. And I had shown Drew some of my like footage that I was capturing on the trains and traveling, and he's the one that actually approached me. He was like, Jimmy was going to school for documentary filmmaking. Like, what if we followed you and made a video about it? And I was immediately on board for it, because any excuse to travel was something I was welcoming at the time. And they set up a GoFundMe, and I think they collected something like $14,000 for a budget for that. And they got a whole crew together, got like 5 or 6 cameramen and women. And we hit the road.
Shit.
They had a budget.
So that was basically their first attempt at making a documentary.
Yeah, it was both
Out of
their
college.
first attempt at creating a documentary, but also their first attempt at traveling. Like, they were literally hopping on freight trains with me with their like Canon DSLR cameras and their microphone setups with the zoom, and like they were doing it,
Yeah, that was like one thing as a filmmaker. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, holy fuck, man, like watching you guys run and try to catch the train while having like expensive equipment on your back, like that.
And that was all their personal gear, they were putting a lot on the line every time we did something risky like that. And in hindsight, what I think would have been even more of an interesting story than Exile by Choice was a secondary camera crew following Born Ready Films trying to make this film. Because, like, I remember one of them, Shane, I think he was like, I've never shit in the woods before, but we're out camping, like, where there's no toilet. I'm like, well, just fucking go dig a hole over there and learn how to poop in the woods. It's a skill everyone needs. And these, like, fresh out of college kids were, like, getting these real rough traveling skills as they were traveling with me and Mikey.
Oh yeah. So I gotta ask. So now that you're kind of like settled down, you have kids and all that. How important do you think it is to travel at that specific age? Like, what do you think it did for you as a person?
It defined me, man. It defined me. Like, who I am today, I would not be me had I not gone through that period of my life. And my mom was always super supportive of it. I remember even in 8th grade, like, before even going to high school, she was like planting the seeds in my head that like when you graduate high school, you should just go travel Europe for a few years. She even like suggested you should go hitchhike
Wow.
around Europe.
Wow.
You know, my mom's like very radical and supportive like that, and she always pushed me to like push the boundaries and yeah, find my own way.
No, totally. And like watching that film and then just like noticing that the film was done a long time ago and then checking your social media just to look at it real quick, I'm like, whoa, like this dude, like he's a totally different person, you know, in a good way, you know what I mean?
Totally.
But it's yeah, it was definitely like a really cool story, and I don't know, man. Like I was like so into it. I was like, I gotta reach out to this dude, man, because
I'm glad
that
you
was
did. So I just graduated college like 2 weeks ago. I went back to school.
Congrats, man.
And got a bachelor's.
What'd you go for?
Music business with a concentration on digital distribution and music publishing.
Hell yeah.
So like after going through that whole 4 years of just grinding and like getting through school, like I had the same opportunity to go to school at 18 years old, and you know I was all enrolled in college, but I instead like dropped out last second to make this band and do the touring thing. And in hindsight, part of me wishes that like I would have just grinded it out at 18, you know, fresh out of high school when I was still good at math and like all that shit.
Algebra and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was tough to go to school as a 33-year-old man being in a classroom with like 18, 21-year-old kids just to like do the thing, get the piece of paper, and be like valid in society's eyes as an employable human and father figure.
Yeah, now you're employable. Because you have this piece of paper.
Yeah. I mean, I have been very fucking unemployable my whole life, chronically unemployable. I've had nothing but
Same.
just shitty jobs all my life. Even now with the piece of paper, I've only had it for 2 weeks, but like I still don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with it. If I didn't have kids, I would hit the road right now with this piece of paper and just fuck it all. But like back to what you were asking about, like how important is it for people to do that at that age?
Yeah.
I think it's so fucking important to get your traveling in before all the obligations of adult life set in. Now, whether it's at 18 like I did, that might be a little early because there was like, had a lot of opportunities to really fuck up my life and ruin it for good, like permanently. At that time, I didn't like fully understand the permanence of some of the situations I was making and the situations I was putting myself in. So, you know, if I had to give anyone some advice, I would say go to college, get your degree, and then do the traveling. But then I'm like already contradicting myself because as soon as you get out of college, you have debt. You have college loans to repay. And you have the weight of needing to fit into society, like getting in the way of you, holding you down from doing things that would allow you to be as free as I was. So maybe, fucking drop out of school and travel if you have the chance to, but be safe. Don't make any decisions that will haunt you and follow you for your lifetime because it will be a lot harder to get back on track afterwards.
Yeah, another struggle I saw within that film a lot was the fact that you were always being put into situations where it's like, hey, you know, fellow train hopper, do you want some weed? Do you want some this to smoke, this to smell, this to snort? And I was like, man, like this dude's having a blast, but at the same time, like people look at that in a different perspective. Like you're on this mission to travel, and they're like fucked up, but it's their inherent need because they're like hooked to a substance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
and a lot of people
always,
see you traveling and they're like, this is my good deed of the day to give this guy drugs because I assume he wants drugs, you know? And it's just like constantly being offered. Constantly. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been hitchhiking on the West Coast and someone just pulls over and just hands me like an ounce of weed. It's happened probably like 20 separate occasions, you know, in NorCal because everyone just sees a traveler and they're like, oh, he must be on hard times. I'll brighten his day with some bud.
Right.
Which I've been grateful for at times.
Yeah, but it was definitely like one of those things where I was like, man, like we were just talking about, you know, it is important to travel when you're young, but it could also haunt you because you're put in these like situations that you might not even know how to encounter.
I know, yeah.
You know?
I can't tell you how many of my friends that I've met traveling who are dead now from alcoholism as pretty much the main cause of death, liver failure, you know, kidney failure. Just, it's a rough lifestyle. And there have been times where I was not sober when I was traveling, you know, and it's just a daily struggle to find enough alcohol to keep like the shakes away at that point. And that's like normal for a lot of the train hopping, like oogle type peers that I met on the road.
Now, I gotta ask, so you made it a point that like during this film, like you guys, both of you wanted to be completely sober. And I guess like why is that? Like
that was more so I think the design of the film crew and them, like their creative direction of like feeling like we need a story here, and the story that sets you two apart from the rest of the people on the road is that you are sober. And if that pressure hadn't been there, I probably wouldn't have been. And I could tell Mikey didn't want to be either.
Yeah, he didn't seem like he wanted.
He was
be there either.
He was being strong armed into staying sober, and that was like a big part of like, you know, Drew and the production company. They approached Mikey and his parents, and they're like, "Hey, we want to take your kid on the road and like do this documentary where he's like learning to travel." And Mikey had just lost his older brother, and his parents were like very weary, you know, about letting their kid go, and like, you know, go be homeless. It's just, it doesn't seem like a wise decision for anyone to check off on, but me being this like sober mentor that would like keep him under my wing and keep him sober.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
was like part of the whole plot that made it kind of work.
And it definitely did work because at the end, like, how he like ended up in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
He ended up in Hawaii. And is he still living in Hawaii?
Not that I know of. You know, I haven't talked to Mikey in a while. He reached out to me a few months ago, but we never connected. But I heard from someone else that he just had a kid recently too.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where he is. He stayed in Hawaii for a long time, lived in Hawaii. Then I think he moved to California and plugged in at some type of like a religious retreat center. Like Mikey was very spiritual, and he was chasing different things on the road than I was even, I think, you know. He was like...
Do you think he was like chasing like spirituality? Like,
oh yeah, like on a search for meaning. And not that I wasn't, but I was also just like chasing the thrill of adventure and like, you know, meeting people and trying to become famous with my music somehow in like the worst of ways.
You like got your guitar like jumping on a train, hopefully not breaking it.
Yeah.
It's funny, man, because I was in New York City a few months ago, just traveling, and I wanted to bring this up to you because this was like very similar to your story, but I didn't get to see the whole thing. But like this dude, he was like lined up in the subway, where people would like load in and get out. This dude, he like traveled from like Europe to other places like Asia to New York City, and he would just play at that same spot. He's got millions and millions of people listening to him now because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He just entertains people.
Yeah. Some people are really good at the busking thing. I was never super good at it, but I think I was also like playing the wrong genre of music for busking, you know. I was really into like folk punk and like a lot of swearing in my songs, and it was aggressive and loud and screamy, and it was more abrasive than people on the street wanted, you know. So I feel like they weren't super receptive to my music.
And then you like roll up with, you got like dreads. You're like, all right, it's time to go.
Yeah.
People don't know what to expect.
I busked
no,
in like every city I went to though, but I never really did very well at it.
Yeah. So but that's the exact title of it, busking?
Yeah, busking is when you play for spare change on the street.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know, man. Like it was quite interesting because I just saw him. I was like, oh, he's just a regular player, and then I listened to his actual music. I'm like, holy fuck, it's like really good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this dude Salvatore Geloso who plays on the street down in New Orleans, and like he was even part of like Rolling Stone's like Street Performer of the Year competition a few years back. But like, you know, he's doing big things with his music, maybe quietly and slowly, but he's super talented. And there's a lot of people like that. Like one of my favorite street performer musicians is Chris Jeffries, the Homeless Romantic, and he did that for years, just busking and touring and trying to push the music agenda while living the dirty kid street life.
Oh yeah. So this is gonna kick us out in 7 minutes, so we'll have to rejoin, just so you know.
Cool.
Yeah. So like, this is gonna sound funny, but are you happy? Are you like super happy about the film being made? Like when you look back at that film, what's your overall feeling? What do you get?
Dude, I'm so happy that those dudes gave me that opportunity to like show my friends and my family and ultimately like the world what type of life I was living, because I can sing about it from the mountaintops and tell my friends like how great of a time I was having and how meaningful it was to me, but nobody could really understand that. And I think being able to see that film gets them closer to grasping, where I've been, what I've been up to, what opportunities are available to them.
Yeah. Now, since the release of that film, like, what has been the overall reception that it had? I mean, like, in general, like, did you have, like, friends saying, like, what the hell, man? Like, what was the overall reaction that people got and responded to?
When they released the film, they had a big premiere for it in Chicago, and there was, like, a couple hundred people that showed up to, like, see it on a big screen, and it got put on, like, Comcast pay-per-view for a few years, then it went to Amazon, then it went to Hulu. Now I think it's on Tubi for free.
Yeah, that's where I saw it.
And, I mean, it had a pretty good reception. I mean, it's got, like, a good IMDb score. But, like, personally, in my life, everyone in my life was super into it and super supportive of it, And it created a lot of opportunities for me that I was, like, not ready for at the time.
Yeah.
Like, when that video came out, I was approached by, like, a manager, and we had plans to create some kind of, like, television documentary series with it, and
whoa.
there became like money men getting involved and contracts. Like, I'm pretty sure there's still some greedy money man that owns like 10%, has 10% ownership in Roaming Bear as a television host in perpetuity. So I made some poor decisions with contracts back then too, because I was not wise to that. And also, right after that film came out, I started drinking again, and I just, like, pissed away all of the opportunities that it created for me.
Yeah.
Like, if I had the mind I have now with my music business degree and understood how the music industry worked, I could have parlayed that into, like, helping me forge a career in music. But instead, I just continued doing what I was doing before the movie, which was just traveling and hitchhiking and busking and making little tours.
Yeah.
But like, one thing that I didn't even know of at the time is the concept of publishing rights, which is what I was just, studying in school. And for every time someone streamed that video, I should have been getting royalties, because I composed the whole soundtrack for it. And that's just something nobody ever told me about. And you can only collect royalties backlogged for up to like 3 years. So like, all the momentum that movie had, I don't think it would be a lot of money, but there would be something for me in it, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But
like another like couple of years of traveling, maybe.
Yeah, But I mean, I haven't
I
seen
mean-
a cent from that movie. It's other than there's been no monetary like compensation or value to it. It's just been like it created some social clout for me, which I enjoyed. And it opens up opportunities for me to talk to people like you and have experiences like this,
Oh yeah.
which
I
is
mean,
more than I could ask for, and that's all I wanted when I agreed to do it.
yeah. Like when he originally gave you the contract, were you like, did you even read it, or you just fucking sign it? Did you
Dude,
go
I
for
didn't
it?
understand how to fuck to read a contract. But the guy was like, "Hey, if you sign this, I'll give you an iPhone and put you on my company's cell phone policy," which he never did, motherfucker.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I never had a contract with Born Ready Films. Like, that was all love. That was just handshake deals with my homies, and I trust them. But it was when the film started to get momentum that other people were like, "Let's make a Spike Television series about this shit."
Yeah. And you're like, God damn it.
I was like, "Okay, let's do it." But no networks bought it.
We're back, and I just wanted to figure out, dive a little bit deeper into your future. I know that you're all degreed up and everything. So what'd you go to college for?
So I went to Columbia College in Chicago, which is the same place that all my homies from Born Ready Films had graduated from, which was like a big part of what inspired me to go there. I saw them leave high school making skateboard films, go to Columbia, and leave with a full-blown production company. And I just saw the value in that. So when I decided to go back to school, it was like a lot of events in my life that led me to do that. But one of the biggest ones was I started dating this French woman who had a master's degree in business. And it was like night and day when we were a couple watching her find employment versus me find employment. Like I was going to cut lawns and do painting gigs and just a bunch of like fucking horrible backbreaking labor bullshit for minimum wage. And she would hop on the internet, shoot her resume over to someone and get paid like top dollar to write a essay, And I was like, shit, I need... And that was around the time where I was like, I want to start having kids sometime soon. So I realized there was a need for me to be able to support myself better than I had been able to. So I decided to go to my local community college, signed up for the FAFSA, and I acquired a Pell Grant to study for free, And
Oh, wow.
that was like something else that, like a strange realization I had when I was living in Paris with my French partner at the time, and everyone out there was like talking shit about America, how there's no free school, no free healthcare. But I had the realization when I came home that there is free school and there is free healthcare. You just have to be poor. Like as long as you're poor, everything is free in this country. As long as you don't exceed a modicum of success, you can have whatever you want. There's like a giant glass ceiling that, as long as you don't shatter it, you're gravy. So I went to my local community college, and I knew that I wanted to transfer to Columbia as my end goal, but like their tuition is like $100,000 a year, whereas community college is like
you're like, no problem. Let me just send that over.
Yeah, community college is like, I don't know, $2,500 or $5,000 a year, but the Pell Grants, the federal Pell Grants, they cover all of that. So I went to my local college, and before I did, I went and visited Columbia, and I found their transfer planning tools, and I found a program to get into their audio production track that was at another local community college. It's Elgin Community College. It's about an hour and a half away from me.
Yeah.
But I was out of district, and it would have been more money, and my Pell Grant would have covered it. So I found a loophole. This is something cool for anyone thinking of going to college. There's something called a joint agreement form that your local community college has to they have to honor, where if they don't offer a degree that you're interested in, they have to pay for you to go to another local community college, and they have to pay the difference for your out-of-district tuition. So my community college, College of Lake County, paid for me to go to Elgin Community College, and I just drove an hour and a half each way every day to go get a music production degree. And I had already been, working with Pro Tools and recording for on and off for like the past 10 years whenever I was home from traveling. And I learned a lot in music production school, but the one thing I didn't learn was how do you monetize a track after it's complete? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I made this awesome track. What do I do with it? Where does the money come? And nobody could give me the answers. Everyone at that school, who was a bunch of, mixing engineers, is the professors who were awesome. Mark Beth was my teacher, and he was like the greatest mentor I had at that time. And he was explaining to me, like, it's not your place to make money off of music. Your place is to make money off of recording. You get paid hourly to sit here and press the buttons. And I just was not satisfied with that because I was, seeing other friends at the time who were making a living off of music. And it just got me asking different questions. So I took my music production degree, went back to my original community college, and switched majors from like recording arts to a business major. And I found a new track at Columbia College for their music business program. And I completed all of my gen eds and prerequisites. And I transferred into my university with 75 credit hours, which is the maximum amount of credit hours that they let you transfer in with. I followed the transfer planning to a T. I got my GPA up to I think a 3.89 at my community college. I wrote a bitchin' essay, and I got a scholarship to go study at Columbia with all tuition covered. So
Nice. Holy shit! So you did that full degree, $0.
$0. I got a bachelor's degree for free in America. It is doable. You can
Say that one more time for all the people that say America's shitty.
I got a bachelor's degree for free in America, and it is doable as long as you're poor. Without the help of the Pell Grant, I would have never been able to do that. And that's another groovy thing about going back to school as an adult is that you're not dependent on your parents anymore, so their income isn't taken into consideration when you're being when you're applying for the FAFSA and the federal Pell Grants.
No, that definitely makes a lot more sense because I'm trying to think back to college, when I did it 4 years ago, and I had no money. It was all dependent on what they had. You know?
And luckily for me, I'd been bumming for the past decade, so I had no money. So I was zero expected family contribution. I was the perfect candidate for a Pell Grant.
They're estimated monthly income. You're $2.
Yeah, nothing. It was zero. It was zero. Had no money. And they check your taxes from the past 2 years, and I had made bullshit. I maybe worked a couple shitty minimum wage jobs, but never made over $5 to $10 grand in a year.
Yeah. Now, okay, so where do you want your future to be headed with the whole degree? Is it going to be more knowledge for yourself? Or are you going to open a studio? What's your plans?
So I have and have always had the dream of being the artist, being the musician that writes the songs and tours. And I still hang on to that thread of hope, but it's it's a thin thread of hope. And I realize, especially now with kids and a family, I should not be putting all my eggs in that basket.
Right.
So practically, I would like to work for a label or a publishing company and, help A&R would be awesome if I could help discover and sign artists and help them get resources to further their music. But on the side, I'm also diving back into producing again and starting to write music. And I have hopes of maybe tracking down my own publishing deal where I could be paid to be a songwriter and just write songs for people and produce songs for people and get a percentage of the royalties on the back end from all of that. But beyond all of that, my 4 years at Columbia put me in contact with a couple awesome entertainment lawyers. One of them is Lauren Wells, who was my favorite teacher and greatest mentor at Columbia, and he does talent side contractual law, and that's kind of seeing him work and seeing what he does. That's opened up my mind to thinking maybe I'll pursue a law degree. So I got the LSAT study books here on my desk, and I'm starting to study to take the law school exam. So I might be going to school for entertainment law. That's like
Well, okay, that's cool.
that's
yeah, I mean,
in the
those are-
stars, hopefully.
well, I think we're kind of at the same spot, when it comes down to music, because I played in bands for like 4 years, man. I just realized it's very hard. There's a thin thread of just being able to sustain, pay for people's, bills off of a band.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially in the DIY scene, which is where I've always fallen, playing in.
yeah.
I've been very anti-authoritarian in my view of the music industry up until going to Columbia, and that changed my frame entirely. Like now, I don't want to do shit by myself. I want to have a manager. The next band I make, I want to have a manager. I want to have an entertainment lawyer. I want to have an agent. I want to have a label behind us. I want to have a PR representative and a publicist, like, pushing our shit. Like, I want to have a team. And that's what I'm trying to do with this next band I'm creating, is, like, build a whole team around us. Kind of like my friends at Born Ready Films did with their production company. One of them went to school for directing, one of them for audio design, one of them for editing. They had the whole team where, like, do it yourself is awesome, and I've done it by myself for a long time, but anyone who's making a living is doing it with a team. And now I see the value in that.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely good to note, because I think a lot of artists in general, even myself, like, you look at something, you're like, I could accomplish all that, but, like, it's so much easier, like, getting an artist even to help you, like, draw, like, an album cover. It's something small, man. Like,
yeah. But if you are like got this ego trip and you're like, no, but I have to draw it because I am the supreme artist, and then you draw this piece of shit art that doesn't draw anybody in, where you could have just paid one of your friends like $200 to draw something awesome and eye-catching that makes everyone that passes the album pick it up. You'd be a fool not to take advantage of the assets and friends you have in your life.
Yeah, that's definitely something, like, I realized within the music industry, like, you got to have a team that supports you. Like, and I think that's a tough thing, because, I mean, the music industry is so weird nowadays,
Yeah.
Like how people get out there is, like, the most odd ways. Like, people do, like, reviews, like, reaction videos of their music, and then they become huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, formula.
Yeah.
To
Especially with, like, TikTok now, people. I have a friend who had a song go viral on TikTok, and overnight his band got signed to Warner Records,
Exactly,
and then they hit
like,
Billboard Hot 100, and now their lives will never be the same because of a TikTok.
I'm assuming that's a real story, right?
Real story, yeah.
Who is that?
That's the Walters.
Okay, yeah, I'll check them out. That's
They're
funny.
awesome. I love their music.
Okay, so you basically are shooting for the star. Well, not shooting for the stars. You're going for it. You're gonna kill it. As it was
Music business degree.
Music business degree. That's cool. So you're gonna try to shoot for, like, PR and stuff like that, and not PR.
So I took my minor was in social media and digital strategy, and I did have to take, like, some PR classes for that, and I do have a knack for that, I found, but that's not the business. That's not the, like, career I want to be doing. I want to be making music. I want to be the dude making music, but at the same time, I have, like, what this degree has afforded me is, like, an overall holistic view of the music industry that I feel like puts me in a position to bring other people into the fold, like, better than I ever could before. So part of me wants to do something along the lines of starting a label, or maybe even a publishing company, and start, like, collecting the intellectual property of my friends and try to monetize it. Like, get friends who are making awesome music. I have so many friends making awesome music, and nobody's making money off of it. But if, like, one company owned
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's masters and was like really working hard to push it all, maybe I could make a little bit of money for all of us, you know?
Yeah. No, totally. I'm thinking of my friend down the street. He owns a recording studio. It's called Watchman Studios. And Doug is his name. He's just like you. He's an artist. He loves making music, but he knows it's pretty tricky. But what he does, he mixes other people's stuff, but he's kind of got his knack for being a part of like horror movie soundtracks.
Oh, very cool.
So like he has a friend that, made connections, and now he plays guitar on those tracks and stuff, and it's like so cool,
Yeah.
Like he just got his niche a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when I was at school, I had a short internship for a company called Music Bed, which is a music publishing company that focuses on sync licensing, which is synchronization, syncing your audio with video. So just music for film. And Music Bed is like this website that filmmakers go to, and they got a whole database of songs, all kinds of songs. And once you upload your music to their website, overnight thousands of movie directors have the opportunity to grab your song, click it into their project, and edit around your music. And then you get like a fee up front every time they use your music, but you also can get publishing or royalties on the back end from, if it's like a commercial that gets a lot of airplay, then you get royalties coming in. So there is opportunities like that. Like you can be a successful musician now without ever playing a show and just be chasing down publishing deals like that,
Yeah.
Which is something I never thought of before. I never thought that I could make money without physically playing music for people, whether it's on the street with a guitar case open or in someone's living room for a house of all their friends, to pay $5 at the door and buy my merch afterwards. Merch is a very valuable asset for an artist because you get to keep all of it, especially if you create your own merch. But publishing and licensing your masters, that's where the money is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, those record labels, they always want the final mixes, the final master vinyl. Oh,
yeah, they own it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, everyone's anti-label. Everyone is like, why would I give them my masters, my precious intellectual property? But it's like, if you're a label, I'm going to give you ownership of my music in perpetuity. That means you own it forever. I will never own my music ever again. As long as I'm alive, it belongs to you. But you have the idea of how to monetize it. If I'm hanging on to my masters and I'm just putting it up on Bandcamp like I have been for the past 10 years, maybe I'll sell like 100 albums. But if you're a label and you have access to like marketing streams and access to distribution, even if you're only giving me 20% of the profits and you're keeping 75% of all my profits, that 25% of something is better than my 100% of nothing.
Oh yeah. And on top of that, you don't manufacture the products, I mean, they do all the work,
Yeah, and I've always manufactured my own products. I remember at like 19 years old, I bought a CD tower and for years burnt like thousands of CDs at a time and just handed out burnt CDs everywhere I went,
That's cool. Did you do that on the road when you were traveling?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so there's been times where I've traveled, in a vehicle. I wasn't always hitchhiking or hopping trains. Sometimes I'd borrow a vehicle. Eventually I got my own van, and I always had a stack of burnt CDs. And I'd go to gas stations, and I'd have my little red gas jug, my 2-gallon gas jug in one hand, and I'd have a burnt CD in the other hand. And I'd wait for people to swipe their credit card at the pump, and I'd walk up when they got the pump in their hand and be like, hey, I will give you 20 original tracks of music that I recorded that you can listen to in your car if you just put 2 gallons of gas in my tank. And like 9 times out of 10, people would be like, yes, I want this. Let's do it. And I've traveled like coast to coast multiple times without paying for a single drop of gas by just soliciting free gas from people with these burnt CDs as collateral.
I remember the movie went a little bit in depth with that, but like bringing it back, it makes so much more sense. Like, so you basically traveled in. So you had a car at that point?
Not during exile, but later in life I have. Like
I
I've gone on tours where I had no money for gas, and I literally sold my CDs at gas stations for the gas to get to my next show.
Yeah, well, that's dedication. So everybody that's listening to this, they better take note to that.
Yeah, if there's a will, there's a way. And sometimes it like is really deflating to your ego to be told like, fuck off, get a job, you bum. Or to be kicked out of a gas station by the police and have to tell them like, hey, I don't have enough gas in my van to get me to the next gas station. So if you want me out of your jurisdiction, I suggest you give me $15 in gas. And then the cops will do it because they don't want you to be their problem.
Yeah. So would you say that by traveling at a young age, you like, well, let's put it this way. Your problem solving skills went up? Like,
Yeah,
your
for sure.
your way of looking at like a simple situation, like the gas. Most people would be like, "Oh, you have no money, well, you're stuck." But you're like, "All right, well, let's get creative."
Yeah, that wasn't
Burn
my
CDs.
invention. You know, it's called jugging. Jugging is like a word well known in the subculture of traveling. Like, if you have a car, you can jug to get there. And as long as you get a gas jug, you're jugging. Like, you can get around. People do it. And gas stations
funny.
know to look for juggers because it's like something that's common now, and you have to be a ninja about it.
There's no juggers where I'm at, but I'm also like near Niagara Falls, so
Since
I
I
don't know.
got hip to jugging, like, you would never think it. When you see someone at a gas station with a gas jug in their hand, before I knew about it, I never would have thought anything about them or their situation. But like, now I get it. Whenever I see someone walking around with a gas jug, I just like go give them a couple bucks for gas because I understand their predicament. But like, they're not trying to be seen. They're not trying to have you notice them. Part of their whole existence is that you don't know that they're doing it.
that's so funny. They like hit up the grandma and grandpa in their like Tahoe.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Can you
The
spare
best
me
is when you find someone with a business account, a business card. They're just like, pull your car up, I'll fill it, you know, and they swipe their card and fill your tank. And
That's so
before
funny.
I even had the CDs, I would just go up to people with my guitar in my hand and say, hey, I will serenade you while you pump your gas if you give me a couple gallons of gas. And people would go for that all the time too, like having some live gas pumping music while they're
That's
filling
cool,
their
man.
tank.
Was this at the point when you were yelling during your songs?
I figured out
Wow.
like some calmer country songs by then.
Nice. They just give you the money and then you just start screaming. You're like,
yeah. There's been times where I've done that too, though, where I've been like, you know, drunk and like very aggressively asking people for. I hate to admit it, but I have been like that asshole that like the only reason people gave me money is probably because they were scared of me because I was coming at them so drunk, like, I need this money.
They're just like, he must be either strung out or just losing it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Is there anything else you want to hit during this podcast? Like, I mean, we hit the film, we hit your music degree. Is there anything else you want to like promote or?
You know, I got nothing really coming right now. I'm trying to release an album. That's something, but it's I don't even have a release date figured out yet. I'm trying to rework an old album of mine called the Berserk Demo, which is a collection of songs that I demoed out that Berserk Records picked up and put out back in the day. And I always had the intention of the Berserk Demo becoming the Berserk album and actually like recording these songs in a real studio. So I just linked up with a new drummer, and our goal is to re-record the whole album and put it out. Because I've never, to this day, you won't find any Roaming Bear songs on Spotify or Apple
I was
Music
just
or any of
about
that.
to
Like
say.
I am a ghost on the DSPs. The only place you can find me is YouTube and Bandcamp. And part of that is by design, because you know everything I've ever released has been self-recorded before I went to school for music production. Like I didn't know anything about mixing or mastering. A lot of it came either straight from a cassette machine or an 8-track digital recorder, or eventually I started recording in Pro Tools, but still didn't know anything about how to mix an album.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make the first thing, my like Roaming Bear debut, really shine, and working on. I want all my cards to be in hand before I put that one up on Spotify.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. I'm gonna buy it when it comes out. Text me.
Hell yeah!
I want it.
I'll shoot you a vinyl of it.
Oh shoot! You're gonna get a 7-inch. You're getting the full thing.
Full thing.
Black? Or are you going?
I don't
colored?
know. We'll see. It's gonna depend on finding money. But that's like one cool thing I learned in college is how to make pitch decks, how to find money, how to approach investors. That's something I never even thought of before. But that's something that like Born Ready Films did to find the money for our film. And I was just unaware of everything that went into it behind the scenes, what they were doing. But they had a couple $5,000, at least one person investing $5,000 for some of the royalties from the film in exchange. So
yeah, no, it sounds like to get that film done, they did like a Kickstarter or some sort.
They did a Kickstarter, but they also did independent what do you call
Contract
it?
stuff.
Yeah, just finding independent investors.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
And that's what I would like to do with some of my new music endeavors. If I can't find a label to pick it up, I want to find some people to invest in it for a percentage of the masters or the publishing,
Yeah. No, I think you're going to crush it. You're a lot smarter than me. Now, when it comes to the degree now, it's a totally different perspective. You know what I mean? Like, talking to somebody that has knowledge in the music industry versus like just kind of like learn as you go. It's like there's like a fine line, There's only so much you can do DIY. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I agree. DIY. I mean, I love it. I sowed my oats. Is that how you say it? Sowed my oats in the DIY scene. Like, that's where I came up. I would not be the person I am or make the music I make or have any of the friends that I have if it wasn't for the DIY scene. But I no longer want to exist solely in that scene,
Yeah, you understand that it's a little bit tricky and
yeah. I don't want to book another tour on my own ever again as long as I live. I want an agent to deal with all of that and get me out of basements and attics and warehouses and living rooms and dive bars and get me into the clubs and like playing bigger stages.
Yeah, totally. I mean, shit. I go to like those shows all the time, but I feel bad because like sometimes the music is like super good, but like there's just like nobody there. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I've played so many shows for no one. Playing like for no one but the musicians on the bill because people just don't promote it, and it's hard, man. It's hard to get people to come out. That's why you need a PR team and a marketing team too.